ladies and gentlemen. Can you all hear us out there here at the Sheraton Georgetown Austin Hotel? Give us a thumbs up if you can hear us. We wanted to make sure the audio was good, and we got thumbs up across the board. I'm Rob Pipp, your host for SU Football Weekly with Coach Joe Austin. And, man, I can't tell you how excited I am, Coach, to be here today talking Southwestern football here for our preview show. And it is going to be an exciting season. We had an opportunity, Coach, to catch up several times over the past really few months now and talk about Southwestern, the great things that are going on. So, friends, that's what the show is going to be. You'll learn more about the show tonight. Hope you bring your friends next week. Bring everybody. Just don't bring any cats and dogs. I don't think the hotel would allow that. But this season's going to be great. We're excited to be able to bring Southwestern football here on SHN Sports and really honored and blessed for the opportunity to bring these games to you. Not only the coaches' shows as well, but to be able to bring the games all throughout the season. Coach Austin, of course, 6th year since this program was restarted. You've been here all that time, hired in February of 2012. Coming from Hanover College, the head coach there from 2008 to 2011. The Pirates, friends, they returned to play in 2003 after last playing in April of 1951. So let's give a clap to Southwestern University. 6 years now coming on, and we are very excited to have, as I've called it, a gym right in the backyard here in Georgetown, Texas. Talking about this coaches show, we're going to talk about that and kind of what can we expect each week, Coach. That's what we're really talking about today to get things started. So I'll let you take it away, and then I've got a few questions for you as we continue things along here, Coach Austin.
As far as what we're going to do with the show or with the season?
We'll start out with the show, and then we'll go from there.
One of the main things we're going to do with the show is we're going to make sure that folks are meeting our football players. And so starting next week, we're going to have some great performers. We're going to get our team captains out here. We're going to have Player of the Week honorees. We sure hope anyway, but we're planning to have Player of the Week winners. We're going to have captains, and I think folks will find that our players really communicate well, and this is great training for them. You may want me to give them questions ahead of time. I'm not going to give them to them because when they interview for jobs, they're not going to give them the questions ahead of time. They're going to need to think on their feet and learn to communicate, and we're going to give them opportunities to hone their public speaking skills. We're also going to show some highlights. We don't have any highlights yet, but we'll show some highlights every week and let people get an insight. We'll show some plays, and then I'll analyze it and talk about it. And they don't have to be good plays. If something doesn't go wrong, you can ask me how I screwed that one up, and I'll tell you. And then we'll make sure we highlight what's going on in Southwestern athletics. So everyone's in a preseason mode, but we're going to make sure we highlight what's going on within the department. And then, of course, we'll preview upcoming opponents.
Well, this is the first show, friends, and just to tell you more about the format, we'll always start each week. We're going to have 4 segments here on the Coaches Show. Should last about an hour or so. We'll start with going back, kind of looking back at the previous week. Of course, there is no previous week right now, so we will look at last season as we start things here. And as we move into the second segment, we'll have interviews with guest players and some other coaches. And as we continue down the list, on our third segment, every week we will do an SU Sports recap. So we'll recap some other sports and some other events that are going on at Southwestern briefly to keep you in the know with all the great things going on at Southwestern University. And then the fourth segment, we put the best for last because we want you to stay. We're going to look ahead at what's coming up next week. So as we continue here in this first segment, though, Coach, as we briefly discussed last year, a Southwestern University Pirate team that went 6-4 overall, finished the season on an impressive 2-game winning streak. And I say impressive because we'll talk a little bit about those games and really the point victory margin that we were talking about. That's what made it impressive. The team was 3-2 at home, 3-2 on the road. So winning season again for Southwestern, both on the road and at home, averaging close to 500 yards total offense, 287 yards rushing, 208 through the air. You're talking about a team, friends, that put up 36 points a game on the offense. That is another round of applause for the offensive line coach and all the great coaching staff there. This is a team on the defensive side that allowed nearly 400 yards a game, 104 rushing yard, and 293 through the air. You talk about a defense that allowed 28.5 points a game. Coach, we talk about the season last year opening up on a 31-49 point loss there to Denison on the road. We'll be discussing the opener here versus that same team towards the end of this show. But then you followed up by a 56-12 stomping of McMurray. And when I talk about stomping, you look at a 56-12 score and you say, man, Southwestern put some put some licking on in that game, and that was an impressive victory for you guys. And you talk about last year opening the American Southwest Conference play in the ASC after the SCAC championship. An impressive season, Coach, as we talk about that. You finished on a 2-game winning streak. You stamped out Howard Payne here at home in the backyard at Birkelbach Stadium 70-6. And then you finished the season on the road at Texas Lutheran last year there with that 51-33 victory. Coach, as we don't have anything to look back on right now as far as this season, but can you talk about looking back at that last game last season? That's where we'll really start to segue tonight as we talk about Southwestern football.
Well, I do think that we finished strong last year. We finished particularly strong offensively, as you mentioned, 70 and 50, whatever, our last 2 games. I think in our third to last game, we scored 60 at Bellhaven. So we really got rolling. And you mentioned some of our offensive stats. We finished 7th in the nation in rushing and 9th in total offense. And we have a large group of that offense coming back. We didn't lose too many guys to graduation or other reasons. So we're coming in building around our offense. Doesn't mean we don't expect our defense to do well, but we're expecting our offense to be really one of the best, and we've challenged them to be the number 1 offense in the nation. And you can measure that a lot of different ways. There's a lot of offensive categories, but I think we're going to be a team that runs the football really well, which leads to good play-action passes. As you mentioned, we're not one-dimensional. We ran for almost 300, and we threw for over 200. That's really good balance.
It's not bad at all, and when we look back at that last game, everything was tied up 20-20 at the half. And then really the offense came alive there for Southwestern, stirred things up in the final 2 quarters of that ball game, scoring 17 and 14 points each quarter. Of course, tonight we'll have the offensive coordinator here with us as well, Tom Ross. We'll talk a little bit about that offense. But, Coach, last year, I've talked about this several times at our press conference. We've talked about it previously. But we talk about a Southwestern Pirate football program, friends, that finished 3rd in the ASC Conference. And when you go back and look at that, we've said this numerous times, but for the friends that are here for the first time tonight and those joining us out there on the web stream as well, 3rd place is nothing to be ashamed of when you go up against the 2 top teams in the nation when you look at that within the top 5. Can you talk more about that, Coach, and what that was like this year, going in looking to be in the top 25, but talk about last year and finishing in 3rd, but it still was a great, successful season.
Certainly. So in our 10-game season last year, we played 5 ranked teams, and that's what you do in the SEC. Alabama plays 5 ranked teams out of 10, and teams like that do the same thing, and that's the quality of our conference. Last year, the American Southwest was ranked 2nd in the nation behind the Wisconsin Conference. They had consistently 4 teams in the top 25. We at one point had 4 teams in the top 25 ourselves before we started beating them. We knocked Saul Ross out, and then we were down to 3 with Mary Hardin-Baylor being the top-ranked team all season long through the polls. Hardin-Simmons got as high as 4th. They were 9th in the final regular season poll. East Texas Baptist was ranked most of the year. Saul Ross was ranked. Texas Lutheran, I think, was in the preseason ranking. So 6 of those teams were in the top 25 at some point last year. So it's a tough game when you're in the American Southwest. And we had some lopsided scores, but that doesn't mean that we didn't have to prepare really hard for those opponents and work really hard. If you look at Louisiana College, for example, who won 2 conference games, it took us a last-second field goal to win on the road against them. So the quality of the opponents week to week is really good.
Coach, as we continue on here with Southwestern University Football Weekly, Coach Joe Austin, talking today about what's going on at Southwestern, the preseason, what we can look forward to. Coach, let us know really what happened during the preseason. A lot of strength and conditioning that you guys do. You also train with some folks that are in the military. Talk to us a little bit more about that training and the things that you do to help the kids prepare more as they go into the season.
Oh, for sure. A unique opportunity that we have that I don't know of anyone else that has this is we have a relationship we've built with Fort Hood, with the 1st Army Division West, to come out and train on their leader reaction course. When we talk to parents about this, they assume that we're throwing hand grenades and shooting stuff and doing kind of basic training type things, and that's not at all what we're doing. What the leader reaction course is it's a 20 lanes or 20 problems course that our guys will rotate through in about 12 to 15 minute increments, and it's problem solving. Now it's military-based problems, so our guys don't really know how maybe to approach that, but it's team building and problem solving and seeing how leaders emerge. So an example may be, they come up to this swimming pool basically, and it's about 15 feet across, and there's a soldier that's leading the group and taking them through safety, but also giving them some advice and making sure they know how to operate. And he'll read the scenario or the problem. And we're trying to advance to this area, and the bridge has been blown out, and you've got 12 minutes to get you and all your people across, and they'll give you some ropes and some boards and maybe some things that help you and things that don't to distract you, and then they have to figure out how to get across. So they have to work in groups. We started doing this. We put our like position groups together. I took the top 3 or 4 quarterbacks with the top 3 or 4 receivers and made them a platoon. Because outside on the field, they would need to work really well together, and they stunk. They were really bad at doing it. Of course, this was 4 years ago. We've gotten a little bit better at our teamwork and our camaraderie. But it's a great event just from the team building standpoint. The guys remember it. They're pulling each other literally by the britches. They're thinking critically. They're tying their belts together to swing across different obstacles. So it's just a ton of fun. And the final aspect that I really like is they get to be around some men and women with some great careers, certainly that I appreciate. And a lot of our guys, probably almost all of them, had never been on a military installation, even in Texas where Fort Hood's close and there's a lot of military folks from Texas. You pull on to Fort Hood through the main gate, and the Chili's is on the left. And our guys, that's not what our guys expected. They expected to see Jeeps and people marching in formation. They didn't realize it's a city. People live there, they work there, there's schools there. It's just a real neat experience for them to come out. And they always do some fun stuff for us. This year we went to the 1st Cavalry Museum. And, of course, the 1st Cavalry has just a tremendous history. They were the first on the ground basically anywhere we go. The Persian Gulf, for example, had a great exhibit in their museum about what they did, being the first on the ground in Kuwait and then moving into Iraq. And they gave us MREs, which is kind of fun for the guys to try. They're meals ready to eat. They're in a package. It's a day's worth of rations, basically. It's 4,000 to 5,000 calories. Some of them taste better than others, but it's basically a fun opportunity for them to have it. Some of them have hot packets, so they're burning their fingers trying to heat up their pasta and trying to figure out how to set stuff up. Just a really neat opportunity for them to come together.
Well, Coach, you answered the question I was going to talk about, because you talk about a lot of hard work that goes into the preseason, but then you get to have a little bit of fun as well. And you talked about some of those events. Tell us some more about some of the other events. I mean, you guys have been into a water park. You've been, I believe, maybe to a couple of movies. Was there some movies that y'all went to? I know you went to a water park. Tell us about some of that fun.
We went to Typhoon, Texas Water Park. We've got some great sponsors that have allowed us to do some really good things with our team to break up the monotony of training camp. And that was a surprise. So they thought they were going to go to our swimming pool on campus and do a pool workout. And we had our strength coach come up and start to explain this really intentionally convoluted, overcomplicated process of how we're going to work out in the pool today. And then he said, or could we change the slide quick, or we could just go to the water park. And, of course, the guys got really excited, and they were happy to do that. We've got a great partnership with the Round Rock Express, and they have a promotional event for us every year where we can come out and promote our season, and they just talk it up and make their last weekend, it always is, which is their fan appreciation weekend. They carve some time out to promote Southwestern football. So our guys got to do a little bit of relaxing mixed in with all the work that we're doing.
Coach, finally, here as we wind down this first segment, wanted to talk specifically a little bit more about the team this year. Talk about the number of players, because there's a wide difference between school to school when you're talking in D3. I mean, there's some teams that have close to 200 players I've seen in some rosters, and it's amazing. So talk about that for the folks out there that may not understand how that works. Talk about the number of players at Southwestern this year.
Well, Division III is the largest division by far. There's 250 football playing schools, and you've got almost as many different philosophies and why schools play football. And what they want to do with their football program and the structure of it. In the American Southwest, we are by far the smallest team because we don't play football to keep the doors open. We play football to be a feather in the cap of the school. Obviously, we do want to help male enrollment, but it's all the football players that play at Southwestern are really good students, and they wouldn't have been here 8 years ago. They'd be somewhere else playing football. So that's a big driving force for us. We're a little bit different than a lot of the schools. They play football because they need that enrollment. So, we got a school up the road that's 260 kids open in camp, a couple that are at 220, that are at 240. That's not our philosophy. We want 4-year players. We want to bring in and target recruits that we want to have and develop and see mature so that when they leave, they're ready to go out and do things. If we had 220 people, you're just herding people around, and retention is probably going to be an issue and problematic, and so that's not what we're wanting to do with our football program. We're at 106 this year. It's our second largest team. In 2016, we had 118 players, and I'd like us to be in that 110 to 120 range. I think that's a great number for Southwestern's philosophy, for athletic department philosophy, and my philosophy as well.
Coach, now in the 6th year here, head coach Joe Austin, Southwestern University Pirates. 6th year, great things on the way. Coach, finally, talk about briefly the journey between these 6 years, because now you've got an established team. You have a team that's winning, and, of course, people know when there's winning, that puts a target on your back. So talk a little bit about what it's been in this 6-year journey so far and what Georgetown has meant to you and your family, Coach.
Well, Georgetown's been awesome. It would be fantastic for us to be in Georgetown a long time. It's my daughter's hometown, for example. It's the only place that she's known. So it's been a really cool thing for us. And the community support has been fantastic. We've got great corporate partners that have been with us from the start, and some folks that we're just meeting and bringing in now. And the community support just has made our players feel at home. When I talk to community groups, I remind them that right now we only have one player on our team from Georgetown. So they need that kind of pseudo-family atmosphere. They need folks that are going to say hi to them and welcome them and just make them feel like this is their home away from home. And that's been a fun thing to see develop. And we've had no problem getting folks in the stands. We've been good on our attendance. Of course, we want to build that. But the community has been awesome. And one of the things I think football does in Texas is it can bind Southwestern to our community. You don't have to pick between rooting for one of the two high schools. There's nothing political about football, really. There's nothing about district lines about football. You can come out and root for football and bring Georgetown and Southwestern together.
Well, friends, thank you for those in the audience that are here tonight. And also, thank you to those watching on the web stream. But we've got to talk. It's the best stadium in Division III football at Birkelbach. Seats over 12,000 people. Let's try to fill that up with 12,000 people this season. So get your tickets. Only $40 for season tickets to Southwestern and those individual games, Coach. Not much either.
$10, I believe.
So get out there, support Southwestern Pirates, support the student athletes, and most importantly, get out there for these kiddos. It's going to be a fun season. Coach Joe Austin, we'll talk to you again in the fourth segment, and we will transition now and interview some of our guests. So we'll take a quick break, continue eating, enjoy your drinks, and we will be right back here in just about 30 seconds. Thank you, Coach. As we enter into our second segment here, I'm Rob Hipp, radio play-by-play voice, and also the host here of SU Football Weekly, Southwestern Coaches Show. Thank you to all the attendants here, and a special thanks tonight to our good friends here at the Sheraton Austin Georgetown Hotel. Let's give a round of applause to the Sheraton and thank them for the opportunity for us to be here tonight. I mean, we talk about a world-class facility, again, right here in the backyard of Georgetown, and it's amazing. Well, Jow joined right next to me here as we move on in this second segment, the defensive coordinator, if I'm not mistaken, Coach Bill Crissell. Did I pronounce that right?
Yeah, most people say that, but it's Crissell. I've been called worse, okay. So that's good.
Hey, well, I asked someone on staff, and they told me, Coach. I'll get to know you over the year, over the next season, Coach.
No worries.
Coach here, the assistant coach, the defensive coordinator, and also the academic success coordinator. Again, Coach, I believe you've been here since the start of Southwestern football, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right? About a year after the program really got founded?
I have been here. Coach Austin asked me to come on down, and I tell the story just about every time, so I'll tell it again if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
Joe and I had a chance to work with each other for just a year at Augsburg in 2004, and then obviously we each made a pretty good impression on each other, so we remained friends. And Coach Ross is a good friend of mine, and when Coach Austin got his first head coaching job at Hanover, Indiana, I got the phone call, and I told my wife, "Hey, how about you thinking about moving to?" At that point, it's Madison, Indiana, and she didn't have quite the same reaction as when he called me 4 years later and said, "How about moving to Georgetown near Austin, Texas?" So it was a heck of a lot easier sell for me and the family to come on down to Austin, Texas, and we've in Georgetown area, and we've loved it ever since.
Well, Coach, your sixth season here at Southwestern University started as a defensive backs coach back in 2013. Prior to Southwestern, the defensive back coach at Augsburg College. Did I get that one right?
You got that right.
Awesome,
yes,
man.
you did. Yes.
Part of the 1997 MIAC championship, the first in that program's history since 1928. So you talk about some time that goes back there, and that's a true honor. You were inducted into the Augsburg Hall of Fame for your performance as a 4-year letter winner. Let's give him a round of applause for that as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
And, Coach, you too were also with the Stuttgart Scorpions. We're going to talk about that because the other coach that we'll talk to, Coach Ross, was also that. But you were a player from 98 to 2001. Briefly, can you talk a little bit about – you've mentioned a little bit, but just a final recap of really what led you here to Southwestern. I know you've talked on that a little bit,
Sure.
but just a quick recap on that, Coach.
Yeah, well, I mean, going back to when I started my coaching career, I was at Augsburg where I played and coached there. Coach Ross, who will be coming up here, who's the offensive coordinator here, assistant offensive coordinator, has kind of been my mentor for a lot of years, and we've kind of been together for quite a while ever since he recruited me at Augsburg, and then I came here and got to meet Coach Austin, and then had a chance to be part of his staff. So it's just something that's happened over the years, the relationships we've built as coaches. I'm sure a lot of you guys know, especially fellow coaches that are in the audience, you kind of just get familiar with guys, the kind of guys that you like to work with, those kind of things, and it's always kind of worked out. I've kind of followed Coach Ross probably as much as anybody around. He's probably getting sick of me by now, but one of these days he'll retire and he'll get rid of me. But that's kind of been the path that I've taken, and we've been together quite a bit here at Augsburg, at Stuttgart, and then now here at Southwestern. So it's been a great ride.
Well, Coach, it's exciting. We always talk, and things I always like to highlight are just how blessed we are here in Georgetown with the community support. I mean, look here today, the first coaches show. We've got a packed house here at the Sheraton, and the community coming out and really showing support. You guys and the coaching staff, just another integral part, another vein, if you will, a lifeblood here to Georgetown. So we appreciate the fine work that y'all do, Coach. This is a winning program, as I just talked to Coach Austin about, of course. As we all know, Southwestern has developed into a very prominent winning program here in Division III in this conference and gaining recognition not only locally, but you talk about a Southwestern Pirate team now that's getting that recognition throughout the conference and also making news in respected magazines such as the Dave Campbell's Texas Football Magazine. What have you seen in this program throughout its reestablishment back in the 2012, 2013 that's really stood out to you, Coach?
Well, to me, it's kind of about, I if anybody said that, hey, you want to come in and build something from scratch like a football program, I don't know if I'd want to do it 2 times, but doing it for the first time, we've learned a lot. We didn't skip really any process. We just we knew what we wanted to do. We kind of had an idea of where we wanted this thing to go, and fortunately, we've been able to have some success now, and now it's just about trying to build from it and go make it even better. We've had great support, like you have mentioned, from the fan support to the administration. We got great facilities. I mean, it's easy to sell or recruit to Southwestern. It's easy to talk about the reputation that we have, not both academically and athletically. So it's really a great spot. Location's a huge thing. Obviously, those in the audience here, that Georgetown's a great place. It really sells itself. So we haven't had to work super, super hard when it comes to that part of it. It was just about us being patient, and knowing that, when you start a program from scratch, you got 90 freshmen out there playing. It wasn't going to be easy, but the guys that stuck it out saw the reward. Now the guys that are taking up that mantle now understand that it's not about building the program anymore. Now it's about taking the next step and continuing the championship ways that we've been able to have the last couple of years.
And when you talk about building a program from scratch, you don't have senior respected classmen that have been in there, so you've got some little guys that are going to be taking some big hits. And on the defensive end, that's something you've worked very well with, and now with a full established team for several years, it's worked out wonderful for Southwestern. Coach, we've heard numerous times already in this preseason that is a goal of Coach Austin and his staff there to be nationally ranked. And you talk in D3, that top 25, you're really in the top 10% because you've got over 200 teams in Division III football. Yeah. So you're basically in that top 10% versus, let's be honest, if you were in the top 25 in Division I, you would be in the top 25%. Can you expand more on that goal of being nationally recognized and maybe also share some other goals here with the audience and those on the web stream here this afternoon from a team perspective and that Southwestern really wants to work to accomplish this year, Coach?
Yeah, in terms of the top 25, I mean, it's just one of those things. I mean, our first goal is to try to be a conference champion. I mean, we've always talked about we want to, we take everything day by day and we do all that stuff. But when it's all said and done, we're trying to win conference championships. And when you play in the ASC against Mary Hardin-Baylor and Hardin-Simmons and East Texas Baptist and Texas Lutheran and all those schools that I mentioned, if you do well in that league, you're going to be in the top 25. So we've chosen to become part of the football landscape here in Texas, and why not expect to be one of the best 1, 2, 3 teams in Texas, if not the best. So if we can get there, that's going to guarantee us being in the top 25. And then again, in terms of national recognition, that stuff is great and all, but as long as we take care of business and understand that if we beat the teams in Texas that we play, we're going to get the ranking that we want. And remind me again, what was the other part of that question?
Oh, that's part of it. That's okay. Basically it. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of it. And I've been around the Division III landscape now as a player up in Minnesota and Wisconsin, and know the other big leagues around, and you know what it takes. If you can be top in this league, you're going to be one of the best teams in the country, and that's our goal every time we start the year.
Coach, as we talk about the 2018 Ase Preseason Poll, has Southwestern ranked as 5th? Some people scratching their heads over that. I know that, you guys, the fans always enjoy it, let's be honest. But I know from a coaching perspective, it's like, it's just a ranking. But can you talk about, if anything, that plays a role in those rankings, and do they really mean anything to the team as you guys start here early in the season?
Well, I know I haven't mentioned it once to our players, from a defensive standpoint. I mean, I know some of our guys have tweeted about it, and so I think the players get into a lot of that more than anything. Again, for us, it's just, hey, there's a lot of very good teams around here. That's just the way it is. We played against them last year. We played them against them the year before. And, being a new program and being new to the conference, not everybody knows, from the people, from the media to the coaches and stuff. So sometimes that's just the way it's going to be. Sometimes it takes a year, 2, 3 years for it to get that kind of recognition year in and year out. But, again, whether it's 5th, whether it's 1st, whether it's 10th, whatever, I mean, our goals and the way we do things, nothing's going to change as far as how we proceed further.
Me as a fan, I'm a huge, in the NBA, a big San Antonio Spurs fan, and San Antonio's not even expected to be in the playoffs this year because of some of the polls. So, that gets the fans fired up and gets some of the guys fired up, too, to say, you know what, we're going to disprove that. So, well, Coach, talking more here, as we look at coming off of back-to-back winning seasons and a conference championship in the SEAC a couple of years ago, do you feel like there's a target on the team now? I know that's a pretty, redundant question here, but do you feel like there's a target on the team now? And if so, what has the response been from the players on the team regarding that?
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's necessarily a target. I just think now that we have gained respect from other good teams around. I mean, every time you play a TLU or something, for instance, Texas Lutheran, we played those year in and year out, and now that we've had a chance to have success against them the last 3 years, I think when you go into that game, where number one, we expect to have success, and then number two, we know that teams are going to give us their best shot. They're going to prepare well all week, and that's something we can use as coaches to make sure that our guys aren't like, hey, we're going to be able to roll over these guys or whatever. It's like, hey, because we have established ourselves as a winning program, each time a team comes in, they're going to give us their full attention. I think, when you grow a program and you're young and you don't have a whole lot of history of success, a lot of the times you don't have that kind of respect. So I think for us to build on that is just to make sure our guys know that. And we're doing the same thing when we're playing teams that we haven't beaten yet, from Mary Hardin-Baylor to Hardin-Simmons. I mean, I know they take us serious now, and our goal is to make them pay for the fact that maybe if they didn't, we're ready to beat them. So it's kind of the same kind of thing.
Coach, last year the defense allowing 28 points a game and close to 400 yards from their opponents. How did you feel about the efforts made, however, last year regarding that, and what are you looking forward to building upon and improving this year as we start here soon?
Well, the effort from our defense is great. I mean, we play hard. I mean, that's what we always say. We always talk about playing hard, and that's the biggest thing we want to do is make sure that we are playing as hard as we can. And in terms of stats, I'm not a big stat guy. I mean, some guys are, some guys aren't. We kind of do the motto in our defense is whatever it takes. So whatever it takes for us to be successful on the field is the way it goes. We started off last year just from a statistical standpoint. This Denison game is going to be something we're talking about all week about redemption. We played really poorly. I mean, we just did. We weren't prepared. We've kind of in a transition for our defense the last couple of years. Last year we had to basically completely revamp our whole front seven. This year we're going to revamp our whole defensive backfield after that 2016 championship team. So we're kind of a defense in transition. But again, as long as you look at it as whatever it takes, and after that first game last year where we gave up 350 yards rushing, we ended up only giving up 650 yards rushing the last 9 games. So we figured out what it is that makes us tick. We have a few goals on defense, and that's kind of what we look forward to. But again, with our offense being as successful as they are and as productive as they are, we got to complement them in a way where not only are we solid and fundamental in what we do, we're allowing them to have the ball as much as possible so we can go score some more points.
Coach, as you know, takeover is always a big part of any football game. It's, again, from a fan perspective, we love seeing the strips. We love seeing interceptions. Talk about your objectives for the defense and how you tell your guys to really get in there and take that ball away.
Yeah, I mean, we've really made that a focus. It's interesting you brought up turnovers. I mean, we've done turnover circuits more than we probably ever have just because we want to be opportunistic on defense, and really get after the football. We've had a lot of success in practice now, maybe to the dismay of Coach Austin here, but there's been a few times where defensively we've been forcing quite a few turnovers. That's been a huge one of those goals of ours in terms of trying to get the ball out, get the ball back as quickly to let our offense go to town again. And we've been doing that a lot. Again, we need to be solid. We need to be fundamental, but we also need to be opportunistic. So that is definitely something we've been working on quite a bit during camp.
Coach, a couple of final questions here. Appreciate your time spending with us here this afternoon. Can you please highlight some of the players that we should keep an eye out for in this 2018 campaign?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a few. I mean, everybody talks about how young we are on defense. We're really not that young. We're somewhat inexperienced. We just don't have seniors. We have juniors. I think we have 6 or 7 returning juniors that were starters last year. We have 4 or so sophomores. We're really just kind of replacing our defensive backfield. But you're going to see guys such as Josiah Minifield, who is one of those defensive backs now as a junior, just was voted captain. Wonderful kid, does great, plays a lot of different roles for us. He's number 1, I believe, now out there, and you'll see him making a lot of plays. We got a returning linebacker, Ben Brockman. He switched his number this year. He's number 20 now, but another great kid who's going to make a lot of plays for us. Another linebacker, number 10, Hayden Smith, is going to make a lot of plays. We got a good linebacking core. Chris Crawford's another starter that'll be back. Aaron Robinson's back as a safety/cornerback for us that was gone last year but came back again for his year. He was very instrumental in our championship team. Then on the defensive line, we got our defensive ends are back. They're very dynamic. Garrett Womack, number 42, led our team in sacks last year. He's looking to really improve on that as well. And then we still got Nick Smith as another returning defensive end. So we got plenty of returning players. Again, we just don't have seniors on defense. We got one senior, Corey Vega, as a defensive tackle that'll play a little bit for us too. So we just, we got leadership from juniors and sophomores versus the senior leadership. We got to replace, of course, those of you guys have followed Southwestern football, the Nick Kelly and the DJ Johnson, and we got to replace those guys. They're fantastic All-American type players, but our guys are ready and up for the challenge.
Coach, you're making my interview easy, man. Thank you for these great answers. This is helping my debut go a lot better, Coach.
I'm telling you what, I don't talk as much at home. Just ask my wife.
Coach, something that's in the last and to me one of the most important questions. Your title is, I was researching early on and learning more about you guys as I got more familiar with the program. And shame on me, I grew up in the backyard here in Georgetown. Jim Wilson, a close family friend forever, an alumni here at Georgetown. And football has really brought the dynamic of Southwestern into the Georgetown community and vice versa. But something to me that is so important is your name falls under a title of Academic Success Coordinator. So you're looking at a guy here that's not only a coach, but an Academic Success Coordinator. Can we give Coach a round of applause for that?
Thank you.
Coach, this is a school, Southwestern University, that truly prides itself on academics. Can you talk about, from a coach's perspective, how important that is to the student athletes from your perspective and what it's like to have that title of the coordinator and what you do with that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really easy job. I'm going to tell you that right now, just because of the type of students we have. I mean, I know sometimes you get credit for how well they do academically, but really the players, the student athletes, they pretty much take care of that themselves. Our academic services department is one of the top notch around. So for me, it's just kind of getting them understanding how football fits with athletics. It's not grinding away and study labs and all that kind of stuff, because we do everything individually based. And Coach Austin mentioned too, we recruit smart kids. It's one of those things. I think Lou Holtz had the great quote, how do you motivate your kids? Well, you recruit motivated players. Well, for us, we recruit smart kids. So it makes my job as an academic success coordinator fairly easy, just making them figure out how to adapt their schedule to what football is all about. And so it's great. We start off, when we bring our kids in, the very first meeting they're involved in is an academic success meeting as a first-year player. It's not a football meeting. It's not an X's and O meeting. It's a academic success meeting, making sure that they know that as a first-year player, it's going to be tough your first year, your first semester, especially when it comes to football. And it just goes from that. I'll give a shout-out to Dave Seiler, who's our academic success department head over there, and he just does a great job with guys. We got a great relationship with them, and they work with us, and it makes my job real easy. I just kind of get a little bit of credit for it, which sometimes I laugh about it because I don't do a whole lot of work when it comes to that.
And, Coach, there's some other top-level schools, not knocking any schools, of course, but there's some top-level schools that make exceptions. Southwestern's one of those in the athletics that don't make any exceptions.
No, you don't. I mean, you either get in or you don't. You either do the work or you don't. It's one of those things. I think it's a heck of a lot easier to fail at Southwestern, or harder to fail at Southwestern, You kind of have to try to with all the support staff and the way we approach things. I mean, anybody, if they put in any decent amount of work and care about it, they're going to be successful.
Awesome. Well, once again, talking here, we appreciate the time here today. The defensive coordinator, Coach Bill Crystal. Thank you, Coach. We appreciate you being here. Let's give him a round of applause, folks. Another fine example of great leadership here at Southwestern University. We'll take another quick break, and we will welcome in next the offensive coordinator, the co-offensive coordinator, the offensive line, Coach Tom Ross. Stay with us. Enjoy the food. Enjoy the drink. Stay on the live stream because we've got a lot more right here on SU Football Weekly with Coach Joe Austin and more. We'll be right back here in a few seconds, friends. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause now as we are meeting with the assistant head coach, co-offensive coordinator, the offensive line coach, Tom Ross. Let's give him a round of applause, friends.
Thank you very much.
Coach, we talked to the defense, and now we get to talk to the offense. And, it takes a defense to make an offense. It takes an offense to make a defense. And, Coach, we're excited to be here. Thank you for your time here this afternoon at the Sheraton Austin Georgetown Hotel. Appreciate it. Coach, here, 6th season at Southwestern University since the start of the program as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Sure thing.
So, Coach, you joined Southwestern in March of 2012 after serving under head coach Joe Austin at Hanover College for 4 years. So there's a trail of success that started with the leadership at Southwestern. You guys are following the footsteps. Coach, prior to Hanover, just for those out there that just a little background history here. The head coach and help me pronounce this. Is it Stuttgart? Stuttgart Scorpions.
Yeah, genau.
A team in the German Football League for 2 seasons. Coach, talk about the years before Southwestern and what eventually led you here.
Well, I'm glad you reminded me of that because I probably forgot half of it. But Stuttgart was a great time. I went from Augsburg, where we were coaching together with Joe and Bill, and went over back to Stuttgart. I had been there before, and halfway through that, Joe calls me up about the job in Indiana. He says, "Come on over," and I knew Joe very well. I knew he was going to be very successful, so I went along with it. But in the meantime, we were successful ourselves. So we got to the point where we were in the German Bowl. We lost in the German Bowl to the same team we always lost to in the playoffs before, but it was a fantastic opportunity to play them again in the finals, and we were very good.
When I saw the ties to the German Football League, it reminded me, my last name is Hip, but In Germany, it was Hupsch is how it started. So somehow it's neat how the translation goes from Hupsch to hip, and
Well,
you've seen a lot there.
Yeah, it's like pronouncing Kriesel, isn't it?
I'm going to send an email on that, Coach, so thank you for that, man.
Yep.
Hey, it's our first show. We'll get through it, so thank y'all for the patience, everybody. Well, Coach, we talk about, again, Southwestern Pirates last year on the offensive end, averaging close to 500 yards a game on offense. We discussed earlier, the team also averaged 36 points a game. Talk about some of the highlights from last year, including ending the season on a 2-game winning streak with that 70-6 victory over Howard Payne, and then a great win there, 51-33 at Texas Lutheran, Coach.
Well, we've been a work in progress, and with each season we've gotten a little bit older in the offensive side of the ball and more refined in what we do. As we move forward, we want to get our techniques better and better, and we play faster each and every season. A year ago, or 2 years ago, we averaged, I think, 150, just under 190 yards a game. Last year, we wanted to push it up to 300. We were just under that. This year, we want to push it up into that 350 range. So it's always moving forward, and Coach Austin will say this all the time. We want to get better every day, each and every year. So it's been a work in progress to the point where we're having success on the field, and we expect it it's basically a fundamentally based offense where it's not so much what we're doing, it's how we do it that counts.
Well, Coach, looking back to last year, what would you like to see carried over, some of the positive things carried over from last year into this new season?
70 points a game would be good. But, carried over and actually getting better at. I think our blocking angles have gotten much better each and every game. And with this practice and from last spring to this fall, we have improved immensely in that area. So I think you're going to see a pretty good offense this year from the start. And we can come out smoking a little bit. Our expectations are high from each and every individual in the offense. And we have a lot of confidence in our guys to make sure that they can go out and do some very good things.
I'm going to ask the folks here in the audience, how many of you have thought this has been a very hot summer? Can I see a show of hands? I think everybody, Coach. So tell us, how does the team on the offensive end get out there and practice and play in this heat? What are some things that you really got to keep an eye on with these student athletes?
Surprisingly enough, when we were in Indiana, we had more practices called off than we've ever had here due to the heat index. The humidity's lower, so it's something we can deal with pretty well. We also practice later in the afternoon, so I think it helps us as far as making sure we can get practices in. We had a couple delays because of storms, but I don't even remember how we had a storm around here. I don't think we had rain in I don't know how long, but we had lightning, so we had to stop.
Well, I'm looking forward. I'm joining Camp Gladiator next month, man. Whataburger, I always say I was blessed with an appetite for burgers, man, and too many of them have got around my waistline, and I figure, man, if I'm going to start looking like Coach Austin and you guys, I better start taking better care of myself. So I'm going to take care, but I'm doing it at 9 a.m., Coach, not afterwards.
Well, thanks for saying you guys. I guess that includes me.
Yes, sir, absolutely, Coach. Well, Coach, as we continue to talk here to assistant coach, co-offensive coordinator, Coach Tom Ross, this is a program, and a lot of these questions are rhetorical that you hear in interviews. You're probably, another one of these guys asking the same question. But, it's a program like most, from what I've seen, that works hard to establish a running game. I think that shows in the stats, and that's true for almost any football team that you talk with, because the running usually dictates what's going to happen on the passing game, and that dictates the flow. Last year, this is a Southwestern Pirate team that averaged 287 on the ground. Let's give a hands off for that. That is an impressive running game. You talk about good numbers, Coach, but compared to 204 through the air, so it seems, of course, the ground game was working. Can we expect more of the same this season, and what are some things maybe on that running game that you'd like to improve on?
I would say yes. We are going to continue to work in that way because our passing game really feeds on it. If you watch the second half of our TLU game last year, I think we were like 10 for 10 in the second half for like 300 yards passing because they spent all week working on our running game, and they forgot to do the other part, I think. But they'll work hard on that this year, of course. But everything starts with the running game with us, and we've got a unique offense in that I don't even know what you would call it, but we've got the new school spread offense that Joe likes, of course, and then we've got the old school stuff that I like. And I think it's funny that an Iowa guy and a Minnesota guy comes down to Texas to show people what Texas used to look like on offense. And I'm sure we have a lot of parents out there saying, yeah, I used to run that play all the time. But that's just the nature of what we are.
Well, Coach, some of the players this year that we should really keep an eye on there on the offensive end, and even if linemen, linemen, I always feel like they don't get a whole lot of credit. You don't get to hear about the linemen because they're not the ones touching the ball, but the linemen out there, other players that you'd like to highlight as well, who should we be keeping an eye on this season?
Well, linemen shouldn't be talked about too much, of course, because we're a group, and that's the way they like it. But T.J. Bella is probably our star on the O-line. He was second-team all-conference last year, but I think he's one of the top 2 linemen in the conference, so he's pretty fantastic. And we've got a good group of seniors, juniors, sophomores, and now freshmen coming in that we're building year to year, and we're too deep on the offensive line, and we're going to be pretty darn good there. We're too deep everywhere. And Fred Hover is a fantastic quarterback. He can run, he can throw, and he's tough, and he has no conscience whatsoever. He's like type of quarterback you really want.
Awesome. Well, Coach, finally, you've answered some of these already, but any additional goals that you would really like to see the offense accomplish this year?
Yeah, I think every day or every game we go out, it's more so about playing to your potential and letting the scoreboard take care of itself. We barely use the word win around our program until after the game when we looked at the scoreboard and say, hey, isn't this great? We won. But for us, it's about making sure we execute to the best of our ability and having the expectations of going out and taking care of business. And each and every year we've gotten better at that because of the fact that our expectations just keep going up with the better we are at our techniques, at our schemes, and have the ability to get the players old enough to handle those things.
Coach, any final comments that you'd like to make? Just, I don't ask that often, but I said, it's the offense. What would you like to say, Coach? I'll leave an open-ended question for you, my friend.
Open-ended questions are tough, but I would expect us to score quite a few points this year. As long as we stay healthy, we're going to do a very good job there, and we hold the ball quite a bit. And as you said, we try to help our defense out by having the ball a lot, and we do. But I think we're going to be a big play offense to where we're going to score fast at times too. So kind of bragging on it, but it's a situation where we're at the point now where we have those expectations.
Awesome. So if you want to come out and see a high-action offense coached by some great coaches here, starting on the offense, Coach Tom Ross. Let's give it up again for Coach Tom Ross. Thank you so much, Coach, for being here today.
Thanks for being here.
Well, we'll take another quick break as we will go ahead here and actually transition into our 4th segment. I'll talk about the 3rd, but we'll go ahead and get everybody up here for our 4th segment. So, again, enjoy the food, enjoy the drink. Hey, by the way, are y'all having a good time tonight? Can we get a round of applause? I was a little worried. I saw some people, and then they came over, so it's good, Coach. We'll take another quick break. Stay with us. Stay right here on the web stream. We'll be right back here with SU Football Weekly with Coach Joe Austin. Stay with us. Well, friends, normally during this point we would have segment number 3. We're not going to have that segment here today, but just to give you an idea of what it will be in the future, we will be going over other sports here at Southwestern University. You know, it's not just about football, and we want to make sure that we highlight everybody in as much sports as we can. Even though this is the SU football, SU Weekly with Coach Joe Austin, we do want to talk about other sports. So in the future coaches shows, we will be talking and highlighting some of those other teams that are out there. Really, to be honest, I talked to Annabelle, who's the new SID. A lot of those teams right now at Southwestern are still in preseason or exhibition play, if you will, so not a whole lot to report, but there are some volleyball tournaments and some other exciting things going on with cross country, and I know Kip McConico does a wonderful job highlighting a lot of that as well, but we will talk briefly in the future shows. But joined now by a voice that you will hear alongside me throughout the season, a legend in Georgetown, and no one better to serve this role than someone who keeps up with not only high school football but as well as college football, Galen Welnicki. Can we please give it up for Mr. Welnicki?
Thank you.
Galen has been a legend, and I say it, Coach Austin. He's written articles for years, up until a while back for the Williamson County Sun, and he's always looking for opportunity. Galen's covered folks in the professional realm as well, working with the Dallas Cowboys years ago, as well as in the NBA. And so, Galen, it's an honor to have you here. So thank you, sir.
It's a pleasure for me to be here.
So we're excited, and Galen's gonna keep me in line in a booth this year too, Coach, as we call those games. Okay. So he already told me. He said, "I brought my whipping stick, and if you get out of line, I'm going to use it on you." So, well, Coach, we're talking about a season opener this Saturday versus the Denison Big Red, and I'm not talking about a soft drink. I'm talking about a Big Red football team, and they are hungry for another win. The all-time record is 1-0. They defeated y'all last year. Mm-hmm. Talk about this opponent. It's a tough opponent, a quality opponent, and how does this game really prepare you, Coach, for the rest of the season?
Denison's very good, and they've had a great string of winning seasons in a row. Jack Hayden is a very good head coach. He's been there for about 7 years now, and they've had 5 winning seasons in a row. We talk about we're 13-7 our last 2 years. Well, they're 15-5. So they're right on the edge of being a playoff team every year themselves. They've been in the top 25. They've been in the regional rankings each of the last 3 years. Very good opponent. As Coach Kriesel mentioned, our defense didn't play well last year. We didn't get off to a good start defensively, but really got things fixed. And so I think you can look forward to us having a little bit of a stronger performance defensively and understanding what we need to do. Offensively, we scored more points against them last year than any other team. So they were a very strong defense. And last year, as Coach Ross indicated, we didn't think we were very good at the beginning of the year. We didn't really hit our stride and really improve our skills until the season really went on. So I think that's something that bodes well. Our offense is able to look back at the film and see the success they had when we were just really learning what we wanted to do offensively. And then our defense knows that the improvements that they've made. And it's a great stat that Coach Kriesel mentioned is a third of our rushing yards we gave up the whole season were in the first game to Denison. We really got things figured out and gave up about 60 yards a game, including 13 to the defending champ Mary Hardin Baylor. They had 13 rushing yards the whole game. So we figured things out. So we're confident on how we're going to play this game.
Well, Coach, you answered the question I was already going to ask. What can we expect? So you've told us that already, basically. But this first game, Coach, would you say that the first game really kind of helps prepare for the rest of the season, or do you take it some coaches take it as every week is 0-0 and you're trying to get that win? Is this a game that prepares you in a way for what's going to happen to the rest of the season, or you just take it one game at a time?
We look at every game as the exact same. Every game's the big game. You could take a schedule out and you just may as well circle all 10 of them. Every 10 is the big game. And that's what we've done in our program development, but now that we're pretty good, that's how you keep from getting knocked off. A team, we'll talk about McMurray next week. We've never lost to them, even when we were just growing. Had 500 rushing yards against them last year. That's the biggest game, but it's not till next week. So this week, the biggest game is Denison, and it's our only out-of-region opponent of the year, a big chance for us to be seen by people in the North region, because, of course, we do want to be a team that's nationally recognized. So we're looking at nothing else but this game, but that's our focus, is just taking care of what the game on the schedule that's coming up.
I'll hand the discussion over to Galen Welnicki, who will be providing – that's okay, Galen – that will be providing color commentary this season. But Galen is he lives in Temple, so I'm sure he's a Southwestern fan, or we wouldn't have asked him to help. But Galen, I'll turn the conversation over. Questions that you may have for Coach Joe Austin, Galen.
Is there any with Denison? Is there a school or the conference that they resemble as far as the way they play?
Defensively, they play a Texas style of defense. Texas is, I don't want not to get too technical, it's a cover 4 state. So they play quarters basically, divide the field in force and match up as guys go deep. And so their style of defense is a style that we see quite a bit. Their spread offense, it's kind of a typical spread. We see elements of it from a lot of people. So they're a team that's not going to throw us for a loop with anything that they do. They're not funky in any way. They're not unusual. They're very good, though. And they're in a point now where it's about how well they regenerate. They graduate guys and they bring guys in that are as good or better. They're very sound. They're not going to make any mistakes. So I think that style of play and the fact that they don't make mistakes is more important than their schemes.
I was looking at some of their promotional material today, and it looks like their quarterback is pretty good. He is. He's 769 yards away from their all-time passing record, career passing record.
And he's just a junior. He's very good. But we're used to seeing really good quarterbacks every week.
Yeah.
Just another one that's very good. But we have to definitely account for what he's able to do. They had 2 tailbacks last year that both averaged almost 100 yards a game. Very solid football team. Like I said, they've been in the top 25 a lot the last 4 years. They've been in their regional rankings, and they've been competing for their conference championship for quite a while now.
I was surprised. I went back and looked at Streets and Smith's football yearbook, and they weren't mentioned at all in their D3 preview, which is kind of unusual.
Yeah, I haven't read that one, but that would be unusual. They may be getting overlooked there.
Yeah.
Well, we're excited, Coach. Going to be a great time coming up. And this game is at home, so, you don't have to get in your car and drive a long way. You can just go right to the backyard. Everything in Georgetown, Coach, is the backyard, really, if you think about it. So you can just go right to the backyard, get out there to Birkelbach, be there. Coach, game time, and talk about the game time and the setup there at Birkelbach.
Game time, 7 p.m. The Yankees are coming, so we order up 110 degrees. We're going to try to crank up the humidity and sweat it out of them because we're used to being out there at 7 o'clock every night. That's when we practice. But you mentioned before, Birkelbach Stadium is a great place to play. It's the home of football in Georgetown. All 3 football teams play there, Eastview, Georgetown, and Southwestern, so folks are going to know where it is. The ticket prices, you can bring a family of 10 for what you're going to probably pay for parking down at UT. So it's a great place to be, and we definitely value our season ticket holders. We give you a great reduced price if you buy those season tickets at southwesternpirates.com. A great event that we have is our pregame parade, the team parade, which is 2 hours before kickoff. So this week it'll be at 5, and the team drops off at the back of the stadium parking lot, and then they parade through, and our guys really feed off of that. They love seeing the parents there, but the community folks, we'll have a lot of our corporate community sponsors, corporate partners that'll be there. So that's always a fun thing. So if you can get to the parking lot and be in the tailgating lot at 5 p.m., that's kind of when we really get revved up, and then we head in the stadium and get ready to play at 7.
Coach, a couple of final things here. I know we've got to get to a raffle. We're closing in on that hour mark in just a few moments, but I didn't want to forget about that and let you talk about it. But it's going to be exciting. Again, this is a facility, friends, that seats over 12,000 people. Really quick in the audience, and I'm not trying to single anybody out, but I want to give special recognition. Those Southwestern fans, is there anyone in the house season ticket holders since they started? Can you raise your hand? Let's give a hand to these folks that have been here since day one, Coach. Day one, thank you for your support. It's the friends in the community such as those, the folks, Coach, that are here in this house. I always say in the house, man. In Georgetown, Sheraton, Austin Hotel, in the house. It's the people that are here under this roof and the folks out there in the community that come to the games. And, Coach, I got to tell you, I've been to the games, of course, before calling, and this is my first year, and I wanted to thank you for the privilege. I don't ever consider this a right. It is a privilege, and we're going to protect and do a great job for you guys and really respect that. Thank you to the Southwestern staff as well, and Glenn and all the fine folks at Southwestern for allowing us to be here. But, Coach, a unique opportunity for friends, family, everyone here in Georgetown to get out there to Birkelbach and to support, because some of you are torn. You say, well, I don't want to support Georgetown, or I don't want to support Eastview, or I'm just worried. Guess what? With Southwestern, you don't have to worry about it. So come out, Coach. Talk about this raffle. That's
right. So we had a season ticket promotion. And I'm going to make sure I get all these dispersed while I talk about this. Between, I think, June 15th and August 15th, if you purchase season tickets, you're entered into this raffle that we're about to have. And I'm going to get all these dumped in, and we're going to mix them all up to win sideline passes for our homecoming game.
Is it too late for anyone to get
Well,
season tickets?
August 15th is passed, so well, you can still get season tickets, but you can't get your name in the helmet. So I'm going to mix this up. Two sideline passes, and we're going to outfit you so you look official when you're down there with your season passes. So folks that bought their season tickets, and Galen, since you're here and you don't really have a dog in the race, so to speak, I'm going to let you pull out our winning name.
Before you pull it, let's get a drum roll, friends. Let's get a drum roll going. There we go. All right.
All right, we have Raymond Rangel. Congratulations, Raymond.
All right, Raymond.
We're going to be looking you up, and we're going to be hooking you up, and I'm going to see you on the sidelines for our homecoming game. Thanks, Raymond.
Does it get any better than that? Coach Joe Austin, any final closing comments before we sign off here this afternoon?
This is a really good game. Just like Division I, there's not too many great Division III games. A lot of it's kind of regional matchups. There's not too many people reaching out. Actually, the best matchups are probably in our conference. Right now, they just kicked off. East Texas Baptist, who's nationally ranked, is playing Wisconsin Platteville, who's ranked 14th, I believe. So that's a top 25 matchup. You've got Denison and Southwestern, which is a very good matchup. So our conference is again stepping out and doing what like the SEC would do. They go play top teams in the non-conference, and we're doing the same. So it's going to be a fun night at Birkelbach. And if we can get off to a great start, it's going to lead to some great things this season.
Awesome. Well, head coach Joe Austin, let's give it up one last time, friends, for Coach Joe Austin, the great work that he's done here at Southwestern, as well as the Southwestern staff and all those associated. Coach, we've got a lot of sponsors. We will talk a lot about the sponsors and talk more about them as the weeks go on here.
That's right.
But in the house tonight, Blake Nicholson from Minuteman Press. Let's give a nice round of applause for those guys. They provided this beautiful backdrop to us. And one final round of applause as well to the Sheraton Austin Georgetown Hotel and Conference Center. Thank you, friends, here at the Sheraton for the fine work that they do. And friends, as I end every broadcast, I want to remind you that we're not strong enough alone to make it our own. Someone out there needs you. Provide a word of encouragement. Lend a hand of support. Somebody out there this evening needs you. Until next time, we will see you Saturday. Get out to the house. Don't listen to us unless you can't make it, but come out to the house there at Birkelbach. We'll see you. Good night from Georgetown, Texas.